told you that the subjective emotional memory of, your very first kiss and the algebraic formula for a collapsing geometric cone are actually structurally the exact same thing?
I mean, I would probably say that sounds completely absurd on its face.
Right.
You're taking the most intimate, messy part of the human condition and claiming it fits into some cold, rigid mathematical equation.
Exactly. But welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are going on a journey, and you are coming with us. We're going to explore a genuinely mind-bending intersection between cognitive philosophy and advanced mathematics.
It really is mind-bending.
Yeah, we're going to take concepts that sound like they belong strictly in a theoretical physics lab and apply them directly to how you experience a simple, everyday memory.
Right, because our stack of sources today bridges two completely, seemingly incompatible worlds.
Totally.
On one side, we have this deep phenomenological analysis of event consciousness dynamics. And on the other side, there's this incredibly complex, highly creative mathematical dialogue about time, individuality, and geometry.
It's intense.
It is a rare and ambitious synthesis, honestly. We're looking at an attempt to translate the fluid, abstract nature of human experience into the hard, undeniable language of algebraic geometry.
And I promise you, by the end of this deep dive, you will learn how to split reality itself into its body and its soul.
Which is a wild concept.
Oh, it's so wild. And you're also going to discover a mathematical tango that perfectly models the tension of existence. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's see it.
Let's start with the foundation. What is an event? According to the phenomenological tradition, so think of early 20th century thinkers like Husserl and Merleau-Ponty. An event is never just a cold, hard fact.
No, not at all.
It's not a file saved on a hard drive.
Yeah.
In this framework, it's referred to as event consciousness.
Right, because in phenomenology, you cannot separate the thing being perceived from the mind perceiving it. An event is a structure.
A structure, right.
It has a physical reality, sure, but it possesses intentionality. That means consciousness is actively directing its attention toward the object or the moment, and it instantly colors it with context, meaning, and emotion.
So to really grasp this, we have to play a sort of subtraction game. If you're listening right now, try to do this in your head. What happens if we take an event and we mathematically remove the consciousness variable from the equation?
What is actually left on the table?
Exactly. What's left?
Well, if you strip away the act of consciousness entirely, you are left with exactly two raw fundamental components, memory and time.
Okay, let's define those, because I know we aren't using the everyday dictionary definitions here.
Correct, we're not. Memory, in this specific philosophical context, is purely the content. It is the sterile sensory input.
Like raw data.
Exactly. The visual data hitting the retina, the auditory signals, the tactile information. It is the absolute objective what of the event.
Right. And time.
Time, on the other hand, is the chronological framework. It is the sequence, the exact duration, the spatial order in which those sensory inputs arrived.
So imagine you are meeting a good friend for coffee. The memory component holds the objective details, right? Like the exact words spoken, the chemical composition of the coffee smell, the literal visual photons of your friend sitting across the table.
Exactly.
And the time component dictates that this occurred on a Friday morning and lasted for precisely 45 minutes.
Right, that's the chronological box it lives in.
But if you take away consciousness, if you remove the thing synthesizing that memory in time, you just have a hollow shell.
Yep.
It's a meaningless sequence of empty sensations. It's raw server data with zero personal significance.
What's fascinating here is that even when we combine memory and time, they inherently form the base of an event independent of consciousness. Memory plus time equals the event's raw, undeniable architecture.
The building blocks.
Right. But consciousness is the interpretive layer. Consciousness is the glue binding the chronological data to the sensory data. And it's what injects the emotional depth.
Wow.
Without it, the event is just a ghost. With it, the event becomes a living, breathing component of your identity.
Okay, so conceptually, that tracks. We have the raw materials, memory and time, and we have consciousness acting as the spark of life. But here is where we have to take a massive leap.
A very big leap.
How do you measure a spark? I mean, how do you quantify a subjective feeling? The material we are diving into takes this exact philosophical concept and forces it into algebra.
Specifically, nilpotent algebra.
Which is where most people's brains understandably start to hurt.
Oh, absolutely.
Including mine. Because I am looking at these formulas in the source material, and I see a variable, epsilon. And the foundational rule of this algebra is that epsilon squared equals 0.
Right.
Now, I'm not a theoretical mathematician, but basic arithmetic says that nothing multiplied by itself can equal 0 unless it is 0 to begin with.
Exactly. That's classical math.
Right. 2 times 2 is 4. Half times a half is a quarter. So what on earth is a nilpotent?
Well, to understand this, you really have to abandon the classical math you learned in grade school. You have to step into the realm of supernumbers.
Supernumbers.
Yeah. This is a framework originally developed by physicists like Bryce DeWitt and Felix Berizin. They needed a new kind of math to describe supersymmetry in quantum mechanics.
Okay.
They needed to mathematically prove the existence of things that are structurally necessary but practically invisible. In this mathematical world, our variable epsilon represents an infinitesimal nilpotent shadow.
Wait, a shadow. But it has a numerical value.
It's not a standard numerical value. Think of it as a value that is strictly non-zero. It has a direction, it exists, but it is so unfathomably small, so incredibly delicate, that the absolute millisecond it interacts with itself, the moment you square it, it gets completely obliterated.
It just disappears.
Yes, it vanishes into absolute zero. It lacks the classical sturdy substance required to survive multiplication.
Okay, I think I'm following. It's like a mathematical whisper. And this supermath introduces incredible terminology to explain how this interacts with normal numbers. Because according to the text, every single number or function is split into two distinct parts. They have a body and a soul.
It's a striking way to visualize it, isn't it?
It really is. The body is the classical measurable part. It's the sturdy numbers we are used to, the things you can square and multiply all day long. And the soul is that thin, nilpotent, infinitesimal shadow you just described.
Right.
The source material actually brings up this hilarious translation from a math forum. They compare it to meat and spices, or the fat and the thin.
Yes, the fat and the thin.
The body is the fat, the meat, the undeniable physical substance of a meal. The soul is the thin part, the delicate spices, the skin of the meat.
It's a surprisingly robust analogy. In algebraic geometry, any function or any recorded physical event can be broken down into this body-soul decomposition. The body is the objective reality, the undeniable classical measurement of what happened. The soul is the infinitesimal historical trace of how that object moved or changed to get there.
Interesting.
Yeah, it acts like a mathematical derivative. Yeah. It's a lingering, invisible residue of history.
Here's where it gets really interesting. If we apply this meat and spices math directly back to your human experience, back to that coffee date with your friend.
Let's do it.
The objective facts of the coffee shop, the literal words said, the 45 minutes on the clock. That is the body of the event, but that subtle infinitesimal shift in your emotional state.
Right, the subjective part.
Exactly, that invisible historical trace the conversation leaves on your psyche. That is the soul of the event. This subjective experience is literally the nilpotent spices rubbed onto the meat of reality.
Yes, and the mathematics perfectly mirrors the phenomenology here. You cannot have the full, complex flavor of a real number or a real human event without both the meat and the spices.
It needs both.
Exactly. The classical body provides the structural integrity, but the nilpotent soul provides its dynamic historical context.
Right, but a memory doesn't just stay fresh forever. The soul of an event changes. So how do we visualize that delicate, vanishing shadow over a timeline?
That requires a shift.
Yeah, this is where we have to transition from algebra into geometry, because to understand how a memory decays, we have to map it spatially.
Exactly. When you map the decay of a nilpotent soul over time, you enter 3D geometry. You create what is known as a nilpotent cone.
Okay, if you are listening, try to visualize this with us.
Imagine a standard 3D coordinate graph. The vertical axis shooting straight up is time.
Got it. Time goes up.
And the horizontal axis spreading out at the bottom represent the physical space or the radius of the object's soul. A nilpotent cone is a 3D structure that starts wide at the bottom.
So the moment the event happens, the memory is massive and vivid.
Exactly. But as time moves upward along that vertical axis, the radius gradually collapses inward until it hits a single point. It perfectly models a structure or an event, collapsing into its inevitable historical conclusion.
The fading of a memory.
Precisely.
But the way that memory fades isn't always the same, right? The mathematical laws governing that collapse actually change the shape of the cone. It's not just a standard birthday party hat every time.
Not at all. The laws of collapse dictate the geometry, and they map perfectly to human psychology.
How so?
Well, if the mathematical collapse is linear, the radius decreases at a constant, steady rate. This creates your classic sharp cone. Think of an inverted ice cream cone.
Okay.
In terms of human experience, this is a boring, everyday memory fading at a predictable rate. You remember what you had for breakfast yesterday, but in exactly 3 weeks, that data point will neatly close itself off and vanish.
Makes sense. But then there's the quadratic or cubic collapse.
Right. If you change the math to a quadratic law, the radius collapses much more smoothly. You get this beautiful parabolic shape where the tip rounds off gently at the top instead of coming to a sharp spike.
So it's smooth.
Yes. The mathematical derivative at the peak becomes 0, making it perfectly smooth. Experientially, this is a memory that fades gently. It doesn't just abruptly end, it softens into a distant, nostalgic echo.
Wow. And then there's the third type, the tangential collapse. This one completely threw me.
Oh, the tangential law is haunting.
Haunting is the right word.
Geometrically, the radius collapses sharply inward, but it reaches an asymptote, meaning the walls of the cone get infinitely close to the center timeline, but they never actually touch it.
So it never closes.
Right. In physical reality, it's an impossible cone unless you arbitrarily crop the math, because the function would shoot off into infinity before it ever perfectly closed.
An impossible cone. Think about what that means for a human being. A memory that reaches an asymptote. It fades, it gets smaller, but it absolutely refuses to close.
It's powerful.
It's a traumatic event, or a profound loss that haunts you forever, infinitely approaching 0, but never, ever letting you go.
It's a perfect psychological mapping of unresolved history.
But wait, it gets even weirder. What happens if time doesn't just move forward cleanly? What if the variable dictating the cone's collapse is an irrational number?
Like the square root of 2.
Right, because an irrational number goes on forever without repeating. It never resolves.
Well, when you apply an irrational exponent to this collapsing cone, you break out of standard geometry, and you have to view it in the complex plane.
The complex plane.
Yes. In normal math, we just crop the negative values and move on. But in the complex plane, raising a function to an irrational power creates infinite branching.
Infinite branching. What does that actually look like? Is it just a staircase going up forever?
Close, but a staircase implies you are getting somewhere. This is much more disorienting. It creates what's known as a Riemann surface. Because the exponent is an irrational endless decimal, the mathematical function can never perfectly align back with itself after a full 360-degree rotation.
So it misses the connection.
Exactly. Instead of closing into a neat cone, it creates a 3D surface shaped like an infinite spiral. It winds around and around the core, layer after layer after layer, but it never, ever closes the loop. It is structurally impossible to complete.
It's like being trapped in an M.C. Escher painting. You're walking the perimeter of a memory, spiraling forever but never finding the exit. It's mathematically beautiful, but existentially terrifying.
It is the geometry of an infinite loop.
Which brings us to perhaps my favorite concept in this entire deep dive. Because if we have these infinite chaotic spirals, we have to figure out how to balance them.
Yes, we do.
And the mathematical dialogue introduces a custom function to deal with chaotic infinities. They playfully call it the tango cotangent, or TGC of x.
It's a whimsical name, but the underlying mechanics are profoundly elegant. It explores the tension between two highly volatile mathematical functions, the tangent function and the cotangent function.
Right, and for anyone who hasn't sat in a trigonometry class recently, these two functions are essentially hostile opposites.
Very hostile.
If you graph them, they are chaotic. They are riddled with asymptotes, meaning at regular intervals, they just explode. They constantly shoot off into positive infinity and plunge into negative infinity.
Yeah, they go completely off the rails.
They are like two furious dancers on a stage, violently repelling each other and flying off into the wings.
What?
But this new equation proposes forcing them to dance together.
Yes, but it's not just about adding them up. The true insight comes from examining the harmonic ratio of their tension.
The tension.
The equation takes their difference, so tangent minus cotangent, and divides it by their sum tangent plus cotangent.
You are literally mathematically calculating the friction, the tension, between two infinite, exploding, chaotic forces.
Exactly, and the result is stunning. When you simplify that fraction, the chaos completely evaporates.
It just vanishes.
It does. All of the infinities, all of those violent asymptotes, they perfectly cancel each other out. That entire messy expression simplifies to one of the cleanest functions in math negative cosine of 2x.
A simple, Smooth cosine wave.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this demonstrates how two utterly volatile, chaotic concepts can tango together to create stability.
Wow.
They are destructive on their own, but when forced into direct relation with one another, their infinities balance out, forming a continuous harmonic wave. It is a stunning metaphor for human consciousness.
It really is.
The conflicting, chaotic forces of a traumatic memory and the relentless march of time can synthesize into a smooth, continuous, livable human experience.
The tension itself becomes the harmony. I mean, that is just, it's breathtaking. We've gone from the raw data of a coffee date to numbers having a body and soul, to memories fading as impossible geometric cones, and now to this mathematical tango that neutralizes chaos.
It's a journey.
But we have to bring this all together. Where does this infinite spiral of nilpotent math actually lead?
It leads to a radical reevaluation of how we map existence. All of this math culminates in a single vital concept called the central pipe.
Okay, the central pipe. Paint that picture for us.
Imagine that infinite cascade of nilpotent historical layers we talked about. You have the first event, the first shadow, epsilon.
Right.
Then you have the history of that event, epsilon squared, then the history of the history, epsilon cubed, and so on, spiraling outward forever.
Just endless layers.
Right. If you have an infinite cascade of these delicate, vanishing layers, the structure endlessly unfolds.
But there is a paradox here, isn't there? If you add up an infinite sum of these vanishing shadows, you don't just get a whole number. You don't get a 1.
No, because these aren't classical fractions. Nilpotents are what mathematicians call divisors of zero. They behave entirely differently. When you sum an infinite sequence of nilpotents, it equals an indivisibility.
An indivisibility.
Yes, it functions mathematically like a prime number.
A prime number is a number that can only be divided by 1 and itself. It's solid.
Yes, but this isn't a prime number of a static quantity. It is the prime number of a process. It is the unbreakable atom of an ongoing sequence that can never be exhausted.
This raises an important question then. Are we looking at static math or process math?
We are looking at a living system. In classical static math, a number just sits there. The number 6 is just 6.
Right.
But in this process math, a number is a living thing. A number equals an invariant core. That is the central pipe, plus a nilpotent historical trace.
Yeah.
That central pipe is the unbreakable bedrock. No matter how much history flows over it, no matter how many infinite spiraling layers of epsilon wrap around it, the invariant center remains absolute and untouched.
So what does this all mean? The grand conclusion of this mathematical dialogue completely blew my mind. They realized that this central pipe isn't just an abstract theory about numbers. It is a brand new Cartesian coordinate axis.
Precisely. For centuries, we have plotted reality in physical space. We use an X, Y, and Z axis, up, down, left, right, forward, backward.
The physical world.
But this math suggests we can plot existence itself on a completely different set of axes.
We plot the eternal invariant core of an object on one axis. That is the bedrock. That's the body, the literal meat, the central pipe that refuses to change.
Yeah.
And on the other axis, we plot its ever-changing infinitesimal soul, the flowing river water, the historical nilpotent layers of subjective experience that constantly shift, decay, and spiral around the core. We aren't just mapping where an object is in space. We are mathematically mapping the tension between what is permanent and what is fleeting.
It is quite literally a coordinate system for identity.
And that brings us right back to where we started, sitting in that coffee shop with a friend. Whether you are experiencing the subjective memory of that conversation, or you are calculating the parabolic collapse of a cone in the complex plane, reality is never just a flat binary file on a hard drive.
It never is.
It is a combination. It requires the solid body, the factual data, the invariant core. And it requires the delicate historical soul, the spices, the passage of time, the vanishing trace of consciousness interpreting that exact moment.
And this leaves us with a deeply personal implication.
I love the part.
If every object, every mathematical function, and every human memory possesses a static core and a genetic history, a body and a soul, think about your own identity right now. Think about the person you are as you listen to this.
Oh, this is the perfect question to end on.
Consider the choices you have made today. The way you reacted to stress, the way you spoke to a loved one. Are those actions emanating from your unchangeable, invariant central pipe?
The core.
Are they coming from the eternal bedrock of who you truly are? Or are your choices simply the result of the infinitesimal nilpotent spices of your history?
Wow.
Are you acting from your structural body, or are you just blindly echoing the infinite, unresolved spirals of your soul's history?
Are you the solid bedrock, or are you just the water flowing over it? That is something you can spend a lifetime trying to untangle.
Truly.
Keep exploring those layers of your own reality. See if you can find the balance between your invariant core and the infinite spiral of your history. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you in the next one.